sanctuary, as you know, today we were ready to open up. We did everything we had to do, and my goodness, what a rigmarole that was. With all the rules and regulations, but we can all just relax and let it all happen on another day. The place is pristine, and I'm sitting here glowing. It's so wonderful, and I really am looking forward to just having your energy back in here, because I'm getting it all to myself, which isn't really fair. Anyway, it's my turn to speak this week. And I'm going to mention a little bit about a movement and a rest. It's a Bible verse. You can look that one up. And I find that that is what life is about, a movement and a rest. And I'm calling my talk today, Unfoldment in Ordinary Time. So there's two parts, ordinary and time. Now, to unfold, according to one dictionary meaning, is to spread out from a folded position. We open a map. We open a fan. And we know those cumbersome old maps we had, you can never fold them back properly. They're all cumbersome. I've got a map of the world there, which I've abandoned because we don't need it now. You can just go to Google and look up everything. And my favorite one at the moment is looking down on aerial views of cities and places like that. I find I get my bearings a lot easier. And the other definition is unfolding of events, things that are happening. And they're happening whether we know them, see them, or be them. For some reason, all of a sudden you look in the mirror and think, my goodness, I look older. Things like that which sneak up on us from time to time. Most of us have looked at a seed. We did a project at school where we watched the seed come into a flower. It was amazing. Then one day, I think it was in grade 3, in this knockdown old town hall in Penguin, Tasmania by the sea, we were dragged down to the cinema and we watched a film called The Living Desert. I don't know if any of you saw that. I think it was a Walt Disney production, but I think we're looking in the 50s. And we thought this technology was amazing. So I don't know what the young people would think of it today. But we sat there while we watched this desert come to life. It was just amazing. We were awed. I remember coming out of that cinema, you know, I couldn't speak. It was just such a wonderful experience. And it was great in hindsight to think that the teachers would take us out of the class, down the road into the cinema to watch this. Now, we've come to accept that a full-grown flower has the complete pattern in it, but so do we. Isn't that fascinating? We have in us the very thing we need to evolve. We have that Christ seed, Buddha seed, call it what you like. It's in us waiting to unfold. James Dillett Freeman, poet laureate of Unity for many years. One of the perks of having my minister's office is here, there's just so many old Unity publications. And in here, it's called Living Your Dreams, 1997. He writes, God made us the perfect seed. He did not make us the perfect tree, but the perfect seed. He did not make us as we might have been, but as we might become. And many of us are awakening to the realization of what is in us, that perfect plant ready to unfold, our innermost nature. And when it happens, there's the second coming. A Bible verse, we all know this one from Corinthians, St. Paul. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I thought as a child. I reasoned as a child. But when I became grown up, I put away childish things. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part. Then I shall fully understand, even as I have been fully understood. And as we look back, we think, my goodness, some of the things that I did and didn't, well, thank goodness hindsight is a wonderful thing. So I've talked about unfoldment, a little bit about ordinary time. Now, I got this term from what they call a lectionary. This lectionary follows the seasons such as Christmas to Advent and Easter to Lent. And during those particular seasons, we make a conscious attempt to be holy. For example, prayer and fasting. Well, I don't think that's for me, but I do believe in the New Thought way of prayer and fasting. We pray and affirm for good in our lives. And we fast from all negative thoughts and experiences as best we can. And that is not easy. So as you see, we don't take the mainstream instructions. Here, there's a day, every Sunday has a certain day. And today, would you believe, now, I'm not sure of this pronunciation. Rath apparently can speak Latin, but I'm not going to call it that. It's Ordinary Sunday. Who would have thought that today is Ordinary Sunday? It is, but that's what it says here, Ordinary Sunday. How dare they? There's nothing ordinary about today. It's a beautiful day. And there's nothing more special than, say, any day that we wake up and look at that blissful surroundings that we saw, especially in that song we opened up with, Morning is Broken. If we open up our every day as a perfect day, thy will be done this day, miracle shall follow miracle, and wonders shall never cease. So every day is a special day. It doesn't have to be Easter. It doesn't have to be Christmas. No time is more holier than any other time. Exodus 3:5. Put off your shoes. The place you are standing right now is holy ground. And so it is with our spiritual unfoldment. We are always at the right place at the right time for what we're going through. We don't have to go to those wonderful, even though they're wonderful, these sacred sanctuaries around the world. And they are beautiful, I know that. But right here, where we are now, is what we're going through in our experience, regardless, mental, physical, and spiritual. In the words of John Lennon, do you know what I'm going to say here? Life is what happens to us when we're busy making other plans. And isn't that so? Now, from the writings of Melinda Kramer, you've heard me say this quite often actually, we unfold in consciousness, not in time, and in mind, not in place. The wisdom of Jesus and Buddha and other spiritual way showers from the ancient past to the present provided us with good soil. The teachers we've come up with, the different people we've associated with us, that's all been part of our upbringing. And I know that even when I first went to Sunday school, I can remember vividly some of the Bible stories, and these went in. Sometimes we take these things literally, but what a joy it was to learn the metaphysical meaning of these sayings. And that doesn't happen overnight. That has to grow within us. Now, having a mentor or teacher is wonderful. And what I've realized over the years is we don't necessarily pick them. I believe they see something in us which they can help bring out. And one of these occasions was at a running carnival in my early high school years. And I was approached by a gentleman and he decided he wanted to train me. And my goodness, he was a fascinating man, very strict man. And we had to go every night and be trained and trained and trained. So he could see that I had championship material. People laugh at me now when I say that I was an athletics champion of Tasmania. Well, those were the days, I can tell you. But he was a mentor. He could see something in me that I didn't see. And I'm sure we've all had people like that. I've had mentors for music and I've had mentors for broadcasting. And they brought out things I never even considered, to be honest. But there comes a time, I'm sure you'll agree, all of a sudden we look around and the mentor isn't there anymore. We're on our own. And I believe they quietly creep out of our lives and let us get on with it for the next step. As Jesus said to the disciples, I must leave you now, but I will not leave you comfortless. I will send you the Comforter. And I'll be talking about that in a minute. Do you know, we have everything in us now for the next step. And when we're ready, we take that step. And a friend of mine, Nicholas, his father used to train Qantas pilots in the 70s and 80s. And he used to say to us that by the time a trainee pilot got in the plane, he really didn't want to be a trainee anymore. He had to know what he was doing. And his instructor would say to the chap doing his first flight, is there anything you want to know or anything you want to ask me about? Ask me now. And then he said, you're on your own. Well, to the very last, in case something disastrous happens. But that pilot had to be ready to fly that plane as if he'd been doing it all his life. And I know that when I've done things like, first of all, learning my radio panel in 7BU in Burnie, I practiced for a week in the spare studio. And then I went on air, and of course, you do make mistakes, but they're the ones you learn from most of all. Like putting a 78 record on with at the wrong speed, or a 45 at 33, and all of a sudden you think, my goodness. And I remember putting one 45 on at 33. And I went out of the studio to go to the loo, and I was in the studio and heard this deep voice of this song. I came rushing back in, but did I learn to really be particular about the speed and everything else? Same, all of us have to now in our lives. Now, possibly we're at that stage where Jesus said to the disciples, I must leave you now, but I will send the Comforter. Now, the Comforter doesn't mean comfort zone. It certainly doesn't. And I have a line here. Isn't it funny what pops out of you at your bookshelf sometimes? This happened yesterday. I came across an Eckhart Tolle saying, humans don't awake in their comfort zone. They awake when they are out of their comfort zone, and this is a time of great opportunity. And whether we like it or not, ain't it so? My goodness. Charles Fillmore writes in The Revealing Word, the Comforter, the Holy Spirit, the only authorized interpreter of the Gospels, the good news. That is our only teacher guide that matters. Our own higher self, Buddha self, Christ consciousness, call it what you may, it's there. And it's shocking to find out, isn't it, sometimes that we are responsible, no one else, for our thoughts, words, and actions. And what a responsibility that is. We are the ones that are using the God power, that infinite intelligence. We are shaping it according to our awareness of it. You know, as we look around, many are not aware of how they're using this power. In Matthew 10:34, Jesus is recorded saying, and this is a shocking saying to some people, think not that I come to send peace, but a sword. Metaphysically, a sword is any weapon we use against our fellow human beings. And possibly the most obvious one is the tongue. Proverbs 18:21. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. Unkind words can be like a sword. You know, the old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones. Anyway, there's hope for us yet. Isaiah 2, verse 4, They change their swords into plowshares. Plowshares, words of peace. So what was virtually a weapon, we now have how to use it wisely. Interesting here, I was looking up something as well. If we take the first letter of the word sword and put it at the end, it becomes words. It's one of those little things you find out as you look carefully at words. Swords, put it the other way, words. In our unfoldment, we understand the power of creativity and the creative power and how we shape it. And how are we shaping it? Well, we can tell by the conditions around us. If we look around and see where we are now, it's basically the result of what we've been thinking. And it's a joy, you know, to be part of Unity New Thought movement, because we learn some of these laws. And you know, the basic 5 principles cover it. It's ancient wisdom. There's more to it. And each section of these 5 principles you could spend ages on, and we do. We go through chapter by chapter. I've simplified these 5 principles because the simpler the better for me. God is. I am. I create. I pray. And I live. When I eventually get round to doing my 5 principle course with the book from Ellen Davenport, which is the latest book. She's a wonderful Unity writer, and it's the most up-to-date book on these principles and ancient wisdom. We'll be covering that. Now, here's where the fun starts. We create not just as individuals, but as groups. And we're all connected, as we know, through energy or the one mind. And as we've been in isolation over the years, we've all found ourselves rather sluggish. I don't know about you, but most people I've talked to have. You get tired, actually, of trying to do something, so you do nothing and you get even worse. It's terrible. But now we need each other's energy. That's the way we are. We're meant to interact. And that will happen. And we know that gradually, I don't know about you, but I'm zoomed out with all these things. I'll be very happy when we're all back in here and we can all enjoy one another's company and feel that love and that energy. So we're all connected through this one mind. Exploring our divine potential is the next frontier for human development. We are learning to participate in our own evolution. Deepak Chopra wrote a book about this. It's a profound title. We are the future of God. Isn't that amazing? We are the future of God. Now, it's all right for us to affirm and do what we like and try and bring this through and that through, but living the truth of our being or practicing principle is all right on our own, but it's very often like swimming upstream against the mass consciousness. It means staying healthy, feeling prosperous, and staying active in spite of the hypnotic mass media and the junk we see on our Facebooks and on our media, on television, on the radio. My goodness, some of the trivia and the way they can manipulate headlines to get your attention. Queen aghast was one headline. And I looked it up and it was an old photograph of the Queen where all of a sudden she trod in a puddle and she went, oh, like that. And that photo went round the world. Queen aghast. And that's only a simple one. I looked at some this morning. It's very hypnotic. I'm making myself now only look once through it. So it's not easy, is it? Because advertising aims to create opinions and helps us to buy their product. They want us to, and the money that's spent on it is amazing. Anyway, we know that if we keep the high watch, that's a good start for the planet. Because not only as we unfold and expand in consciousness, we see the greatest good, but we also see the greatest misuse of that one presence and one power. And we have to keep that high watch. We have to do that. There's a time and place for everything, of course. Everything under the... Lorraine last week quoted from Ecclesiastes 3:1, "To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven." We change, but the laws do not change. Now, I'm looking at the time, so I'm going to sum up. The revealing word says, time is the measure we give to passing events. A day is a measure in the realm of time and effect. So are months and years, and don't we know it? Time is also a spiritual gift when we realize that we are spiritual beings here to reach our spiritual potential and learning to live in this wonderful planet, but it's a planet of opposites, ups, downs, hots, cold, but that's where we learn to put these laws into practice. But there comes a time, you know, when we get caught up, we're like a spider in our own web, we get caught up in it. And there comes a time like the prodigal son where we say, enough is enough. And we reach that point where we say, I want to go home. I want the next step. It's a soul urge in us. It won't go away. Like the old Peggy Lee song, and Beverly's there. I think, Beverly, we should learn this one. I think we've already said this. Is that all there is? Is that all there is? We get to a point. And I looked at some person who was a millionaire. They were worried because they'd lost something. And I thought of all the millions of people that didn't have money, and what are they worrying about? It's all in proportion, isn't it? Is that all there is? There's always that step higher while we've got a physical body. This world is our mystery school of life. And we don't need to go anywhere but where we are to find our place in it and put into practice these laws. Now, more and more people are awakening to this inner power. Is it a secret? No, not anymore. Everyone's writing a book about it. There's TV programs. You can Zoom here, Zoom there, Zoom everywhere, and it's in your face. But do we come through with it? Do we all of a sudden say, yes, I will now go within and take that and practice that lesson. I won't buy that new book because I haven't got this one right yet. But usually we can't help ourselves. I'm always the first one to buy something that comes on the market. But I need to. I like to keep up with what's going on. So when we realize that we shape intelligent energy and we are responsible for our own thinking, we're on the way to building a new Jerusalem. Jerusalem, that habitat of peace in us. And if it's in us, gradually it'll be in the world. So we live this moment, enjoy this moment. And as I started out saying, movement and a rest, okay, enjoy the moment, but don't feel guilty if you're having a rest. It's all part of our unfoldment. Take it easy, just put your feet up, because you know we're back in the thick of things very, very soon. There's no escape. So let's enjoy our ride. And to finish, there's no such thing as ordinary time, and everything is unfolding as it will. So be it, and thank you for your attention. Thank you.